Welcome to the Graduate Job Podcast, your home for weekly information and inspiration to help you get the graduate job of your dreams.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Graduate Job Podcast with your host, James Curran. The Graduate Job Podcast is your weekly home for all things related to helping you on your journey to finding that amazing job. Each week, I bring together the best minds in the industry, speaking to leading authors, entrepreneurs, coaches, and bloggers who bring decades of experience into a bite-sized weekly 30-minute show. Put simply, this is the show I wish I had a decade ago when I graduated. This week, I speak with PR and branding expert Jennifer Holloway to examine how to create your own personal brand. Now, I know I might have lost some of you straight away there with that title, but trust me, this is one episode you need to stick with. If it doesn't resonate with you now, I promise it will in exactly 38 minutes' time. Jennifer is a brilliant speaker, and she will passionately convince you why you need to start paying attention to your personal brand and thinking about what people are saying about you when you're not in the room. So, without further ado, let's go straight to episode 12 on personal branding.
Hello and welcome to the Graduate Job Podcast. I'm thrilled today to be speaking to Jennifer Holloway. Jennifer is author of the book Personal Branding for Brits and a coach and trainer specialising in the field of personal branding. Jennifer has over 15 years experience in PR and brand management, and today we're going to explore why you, yes, you, need to start thinking about your personal brand. Jennifer, a very warm welcome to the Graduate Job Podcast.
Thank you very much.
So I've given our listeners a very brief introduction, but before we delve into our topic today, would you like to introduce yourself properly and tell us a little bit more about what it is that you do and what your business does?
Yeah, definitely. So my name's Jennifer Holloway, and essentially I spend my time and run my business helping people to blow their own trumpets without sounding like idiots. And that's it in a nutshell, though. It's whether people are just starting out on their careers or they're a bit further along or they're the heads of organizations. It's getting people to appreciate in business, people buy people. So if you want them to buy you, you need to be very clear what it is and who you are that you're selling. And essentially my job is helping people to do that without, as I say, sounding like complete idiots.
Super. Because I know probably lots of people are concerned they might end up sounding like someone on The Apprentice.
Yes, Stuart the Brand Bags often springs to mind when people are talking to me. I mean, The Apprentice is very extreme, obviously. It's good television. They choose people that are good at bigging themselves up. But to be fair, actually, apprentice-style ways of promoting yourself are unfortunately creeping in. There was an article in the Sunday Times a while ago about universities had applications from people, and they had to write back people and ask them to de-apprentice the applications because they were going so over the top with their description of themselves, you know. And one person, this is a genuine thing that was quoted in the article, they were applying for a drama degree, and they basically said that the first time they had ever been on the stage was when they were in their mother's womb. And you just think, what, how does that happen? So, you know, yes, there are people out there who genuinely think that's the way to get ahead. That is not what I believe. It's about being yourself, but being the best version of it, and then giving lots of subtle clues so that whenever I come into contact with you, I get lots of little good messages instead of one big overblown, you know, blowing your own trumpet.
And today we're going to explore why students and recent graduates need to think about what their personal brand is.
Yes.
So starting at the very beginning, what is a personal brand?
Right. Personal brand is just a label or a ribbon that you can put around the package that it consists of two key things. Number one, it consists of what you have to offer. So when you're a graduate starting out, a lot of graduates I know, and I do work with an awful lot of graduates when they are on graduate schemes in my clients, and the number one thing that they have to offer their new boss is, here's my degree. Here's what degree I have and what I have learnt with that degree. Now, that's quite limited because I've also got all these other graduates who are saying, here's what I've got, here's what my degree is. So what personal brand is trying to do is to increase the what you offer. So it's not just about what your qualification is, but what experience have you got, what skills are you really good at, what have you delivered previously. So it's really getting that what do you bring to the table stuff. Now that's part one of your brand. Part two of your brand, though, and this is a bit that often gets overlooked, is the who part of your brand. Now, the reason that's important is, as I say, I've got loads of graduates that I could be asking to fill this position. You've all got the what I need to get the job done. But who are you when you're bringing that what to the table? Because that's what's going to help me decide. Because when I'm thinking about getting this job done and filling this position, I'm also thinking, what's this person's personality? How am I going to enjoy working with them? Are we going to share the same sorts of values? Is their attitude going to be right? How will they get on with the other members of the team? And if you only tell me what you can do and not who you are, you're limiting the chance that I'll buy the whole package. So personal brand is about going out there and not just selling the who, it's selling the what alongside it.
And why is it important that people need to start thinking about developing a brand?
The reason is they already have a brand, whether they realize it or not. And that's not just a flippant answer. There's Jeff Bezos, the man that founded Amazon. Now, that guy's worth a bit. He's certainly a very astute businessman. And he once said, your brand is what people say when you're not in the room. All of us, me included, definitely, when we're not somewhere but our name comes up in conversation, there will often be a little comment that will be added. Now, if you're lucky, that comment will be something positive, like, oh my goodness, I've never met anyone that works so hard, or oh my goodness, they are so ambitious, they're really going places. If those sorts of things are said when you're not in the room, good on you, you've got a great brand. However, it might be that someone says, oh my goodness, does that person ever meet a deadline? Or, oh my goodness, their attitude sucks. I mean, if that's what's being said when you're not in the room, you still have a brand, it's just not a very good one. So the reason why I say to people you want to be paying attention to personal brand is it's about helping to put out strong, positive messages that will increase the chance that what's said when you're not there is the good stuff and decrease the chance it's the bad stuff.
And you talk in the book about how to, the need to allay skeptics to the idea of a personal brand.
Yeah.
What would you say to people who are listening who might say, look, I'm a student, this isn't relevant to me?
I would say that's fine if you want to think that, but you are missing a trick, because there are plenty of other students out there who are already starting to formulate what and who they bring to the table. They're already starting to build their profile online. They're already starting to put a network together. It doesn't have to be full on, but don't just sit there twiddling your thumbs thinking that jobs are going to suddenly land in your lap, because there are other people out there being much more canny.
And then, as the title of the book implies, personal branding for Brits, sticking to national stereotypes,
yeah.
We're not always the most forthcoming about blowing our own trumpet. What would you say to people who might say, oh, I'm too embarrassed to do that, I like to keep my skills. My work will speak for itself.
Yeah, you snooze, you lose is a phrase that my other half and I say. I come across, and it's not just graduates, I come across people of all levels of business who say to me, my work should speak for itself. And you know what? And I genuinely believe it should. You're absolutely right. But the world doesn't work like that. And I can give you plenty of examples from my own corporate life when you would see people getting promoted that you would think, hey, why did they get the job? They don't even do their work properly. Well, because they went out and they raised their profile and they got themselves out there, and, life's not fair. Sometimes the people who are great at interview get the job, but they'll be shit at doing the job, So why should you lose out, though, just because you're great at the job, but you're not so good at putting yourself out there? And again, I keep coming back to this. The reason I called it personal branding for Brits is a lot of people, when they go looking for personal brand books online, most of them out there are written by Americans for Americans. Now, that's fine, but that is a culture where if you stand up and say, hey, look at me, I'm great at X, people will go, yeah, wow, that's fantastic. They won't laugh in your face. You do that in Britain, hey, look at me, everybody, I'm great at X. We'll all be like, doing the tosspot symbol. It's like, I don't think so. So it's very much about getting yourself out there, but doing it subtly. That is the way of doing it. So, just relying on my work will speak for itself, that is so subtle nobody's getting it. You need to bring a bit more to the table.
And you talk in the book about the personal brand pyramid.
Yes.
Can you run us through what the foundations are of that and what makes up the pyramid?
Okay. So a personal brand pyramid is just a structure that I came up with. I started my business in 2008, and I started working on people's brands, and I realized, humans are very complicated creatures, so we need a bit of structure to put this around. So essentially, the personal brand pyramid is taking what I said earlier of the two key components of your brand, the who and the what, and just breaking them down a bit further. So if you imagine a pyramid, it is split into 6 layers. At the top, the first layer you come across are your values. So this is where you set out very clearly in your mind what your personal values are. Your top 1 or 2. Is it the honesty that really matters to you, or fairness, or is it more about equality, or treating others well, or putting yourself first, or community spirit? What are some of these values that for you to be happy, those have to be in place? The next layer of the pyramid is your drivers. This is you getting a clear idea, and this is particularly pertinent for graduates starting their careers. What the hell is it that motivates me? What is it that really floats my boat? What is it that I want out of life? If I'm going to go to work and put all these hours in, what is it that matters? Is it the money I'm going to get, or the fact I'll be working in a team, or that I want responsibility, or I want the chance to keep, being ambitious and moving my career on? Understanding that will help you choose the right job. The third layer of the pyramid is reputation. This is what Jeff Bezos was talking about. This is what people are saying when you're not in the room. So when you create that in your brand, this is you getting a clear idea of, what do I want people to say when I'm not in the room? And it's about having one very clear thing that you become known for. So those are the top 3 layers. The bottom 3 layers of the pyramid, you then have behaviors. This is the personality. So I can have 2 graduates walk into my office and have exactly the same qualifications on their CVs, but personality-wise, behaviors will be very different. One could be really over the top, loud, gregarious, very lots of vitality about them, which is fine if that's what I'm looking for. Or one of them could be quite reserved, quite calm, quite thoughtful, maybe quite empathetic. That's great if that's what I'm looking for. But you need to know, sort of what your personality is to help other people understand it. The 5th layer of your brand are your skills and strengths. This is the what you bring to the table. So yes, I know you've got your degree, and yes, I know what sort of qualifications you've got. That's one thing. That's, but what are your actual skills? How do you apply that knowledge? Or what are your strengths behaviorally? Are you someone who stays calm in a crisis? Or you're someone who's good at persuading people? It's about you very much understanding what you do incredibly well. And then the bottom of the pyramid, the widest part, is image. Now, when I talk about image, I don't just mean visual image. I mean what I'm hearing from you, how you're acting. Essentially, I should really call it packaging. It's how your brand comes across to people through how you look, how you sound, how you act, that gives them clues to the rest of the pyramid that's sitting above it.
Excellent. And when I started working for a graduate scheme, one of the things that I kept on being asked at each 6-monthly review period was, what do you want to be famous for? What do you want your brand to be?
Yes.
And it was something that I really struggled with during my entire time there. So how would you go about recommending people start to think about what their brand is and how to crystallize in their mind what their brand is?
I think that using the structure of the pyramid is a really good start because it breaks it down. And what I say to people is give yourself the time and space to think about it. Now, often I work with people who have got jobs, they're already like, Jennifer, I do not have enough time in the day to do my job, let alone to think about my brand. But then I'll often say to them, well, do you have a dog? Yeah. Well, how long do you walk your dog for? Well, 25 minutes. Well, then there's 25 minutes you can be thinking about your brand. Do you have a train journey to work? Yeah. How long? 40 minutes. Right. Think about your brand. While you're in the shower, go and, wash your hair thinking, okay, I'm going to ask myself, and one question. I'm not saying do your whole brand in 25, 40 minutes or whatever, but whenever you get a chance, ask yourself one question. Start off with, what are my values? What does really matter to me? How do I decide what's right and what's wrong in the world? And just let your mind go. And when I worked on my own brand, I'm not kidding you, I carried around a tiny little notebook, a little black spiral-bound notebook, and I used to have a 40-minute journey from Skipton into Leeds, and I would sit there on the train and write one question down, like, what do I want to be known for? And I would just write down whatever came into my head. And then you almost end up with too much information at the end of this process. So then it's about going back over it and thinking, well, when I look at these again, which ones really matter to me? Which ones, if I didn't have them as part of my personal brand, would feel like I was losing a big chunk of me? And just start putting it together. I mean, it is effort. I'm not kidding you. It's time, it's thinking, it's brain ache. But I tell you, you do it once, you get it down on paper, you get the essence of you in black and white. It makes everything else so much easier. So you go for that interview. They say to you, so tell us, what are your personal values? You're not sitting there going, yeah, that's a good question. You're going, hey, well, I know what they are. Here's what they are and here's why they are. It's when you're in your appraisal and you're asked, what do you want to be famous for? Your brain goes straight to the reputation line of your brand. Well, the thing that matters to me is I want to be known for ... And you're writing your LinkedIn profile and you want to put some personality into it. You go to your brand pyramid, you take some key messages out, you put them in there. The good thing is, because you're taking all of your answers from one key place, you start to become very consistent, and that really helps people buy your brand.
How important is getting feedback from other people about what they see your brand as? I know, again, when I was working, one WAG I worked with described my brand as being tight. I think that was,
as in not giving of money and not buying around type thing.
Well, I think it was just my northernness coming out at the shock at price of the pints in London.
I heard once that a Yorkshireman is basically a Scotsman with the generosity taken out. Is that true?
I would like to comment on that.
Feedback is, the serious answer to your question is, feedback is incredibly important because, number one, it can work two ways. For the majority of people I've ever worked with, I would say finger in the wind statistic, 95% of people, they work on their brand, they decide, here's my perception of how I see myself. When they go and they ask other people for feedback on how they see them, for 95% of people, the feedback is pretty much backing up everything that you thought, yeah, no, I agree, you are this, you are that. There's a couple of little bits here that could do with a bit of polishing off, but on the whole, yeah, great brand. However, and this does happen on about 5% of the occasions, the feedback people get is, no, that's not how I see you. No, I see you like this. And then they come to realize, well, hold on a minute, I've got a misconception here. And if it's just one other person telling you their opinion and it doesn't match yours, well, that's just one person. But if you get 10 or more people saying to you, no, I'm sorry to tell you this, you are this way, you really need to start to listen, because there's no point going out there with a brand that isn't genuine, that people aren't buying because you think you're selling one thing, but they're not buying that because they don't even see it as part of the brand.
And thinking about areas of skills and think about your areas of skills and maybe areas of weakness, how important is it to focus just on the skills when you're thinking about your brand, or to think about your weaknesses as well? Should you just be focusing on the skills and trying to take them even further forward, or is it about trying to bring the weaknesses up so it's more consistent across the board?
Right. If you think of your brand as the best version of you, the answer to your question is you're going to obviously be putting in the real strengths. The real creme de la creme stuff is what you want to go in there. Now, we all have weaknesses. We all have things where you think, oh, if I'm honest, I'm probably not so good at. You don't really want to be putting them in your brand up front, because why would you sell a weakness? You know, Sugar Puffs doesn't go out there and tell me up front, yeah, it's got quite a lot of sugar, might make your teeth fall out. It tells me how much fun, kids are going to have eating it, et cetera, et cetera. So, brands are about the best version. However, when you know what your weaknesses are, it doesn't mean ignore them completely. It means look at the positive aspect of those weaknesses, because you might be able to play that into your brand. Now, that might sound a bit cockeyed. Is there a positive aspect of a weakness? But I believe you me, 15 years in PR has taught me that for everything that looks immediately like bad news, you can usually find a positive element. So if I give you an example, I've had people say to me, a really bad thing about my brand is I'm really impatient. Okay, so there's a negative, there's a weakness, I'm impatient. But then I say to them, so why are you impatient? Well, because I like getting things done. Well, why do you want to get things done? Well, because I believe in moving things forward quickly. Well, why do you want to move things forward quickly? Because I just think we can achieve so much. Do you hear those three answers? Those are all positive things. Impatient is not good, but if you sell me as part of your brand, I'm someone who likes to move things forward and keep it going quickly because I want us to achieve great things, that's positive stuff. So you can do it authentically, because you're not just making those things up. That's genuinely why you're impatient. So you can still be true to your brand.
Excellent. No, that's really good advice, and I've not thought about it like that.
Because PR spin, that's what it is. It's rubbish. It's, no, I'll find the good story. No, it's not spin. It's just, like I say, about, for every negative there's a positive. But don't forget as well, though, there's times when what you think is a positive can turn into a negative if you're not careful. So someone who's confident, or extremely confident, can see that as a positive, but too much confidence seen by other people can verge on arrogance. So it's getting the balance right.
And as you talk in the book as well, you can't please all of the people all the time.
No, and you'll make yourself loony trying, quite frankly. It's about that reason why you get yourself to that knowledge of, here's my brand pyramid, here's the best version of me, is so that you have a sanity check to know that is what you are going out there and selling. So the best example I can give is this: years ago, when I was making these train journeys and working on my brand, I got myself to a final pyramid. I then, and this was in the extremely early days of my business, back in 2008, after I knew what my own brand was, I emailed a whole load of people I'd worked with, my ex-CEO, some of my earliest clients, people who'd worked for me, and just asked for some feedback on my brand. And I got a bit of feedback from someone whose comment was, Jennifer, the thing about your brand is it's double espresso, but sometimes I'd wanted tea. Now, at the time I got this feedback, I'll be honest with you, wasn't exactly in the best frame of mind, and got somewhat upset, thinking, oh my goodness, this person doesn't like me, and I've been too over the top, being described as double espresso. I've been too in your face, and I've obviously been too opinionated, and I didn't even know he wanted tea, so obviously I'm not good at listening. And I had a real crisis of confidence. And my initial thought, I'll be honest with you, was, oh my God, I need to become more tea. I need to tone things down. I need to be calmer. I need to be gentler. I need to listen more. And it was all, I need to change. But then I slept on it, and I woke up the next morning and I reread this email, and I thought, hold on here a minute. I've spent a month on a train working out what my brand is. This person has called it double espresso. He's right. My brand is double espresso. It's quite full on. It's quite in your face. If people see I always have bright red lipstick on, bright red nails. I have quite an expressive way of talking. I'm double espresso. It's not up to me to give this person tea at the same time. You wouldn't go into Starbucks and say, hey, could I have a double espresso and can you put it in with a mug of tea? No one wants to drink that. And I just realized then and there, not everybody's going to buy my brand, but the people who want coffee will, and the people who want tea won't. And that's fine. It's much better that I am the best coffee I can be than I try and become tea and I'm really bad at it.
Excellent point. And one of the VPs I used to work with, when we were bidding for work, his philosophy was, we either want to be first or we want to be last. So a lot of people aren't going to like what we're selling, which is great. Yeah. They're not for us. But a lot of people, they're going to love it. And the worst place to be is in the middle.
I agree completely. And I think, go out there. The thing is, if say you go for an interview, you're a graduate and you go for an interview and you are 100% yourself, the best version of you that you've worked out on your brand. If you put that out there and you're saying, hey, here's what I'm selling, and you're very clear about it, you are giving people the information they need to decide if they're buying. The people who are on the same wavelength as you will read all the clues you're giving through how you sound, how you look, how you speak, everything, and they will love that and they will buy it. Some people will sit there, they'll read all the clues you're given and go, that is so not what I want. But that's fine, because do you know what? Even if you got the job, you were never really going to be happy working for that person because you're on an entirely different wavelength. So put your brand out there honestly and let the people who are looking for it find it. That guy did me a huge favor saying to me, you're double espresso, because I use it as shorthand now. So when I recently redesigned my website, and in my head, it's always, is it double espresso? Is it double espresso? When I write a blog, am I being double espresso? When I buy an outfit, is it double espresso? And it's like, yeah, because I need to be consistent. If I think I'm veering into tea, I suddenly stop and think, oh no, hold on a minute, that's not my brand. So it's so great, as you say, be one thing. They say, the Marmite effect. You either love it or you hate it. Well, Marmite's an incredibly successful product, so it must be working.
Moving on then to sharing a brand. So people listening, they've thought about it. They've thought about what their brand's going to be, how then can they begin to share it, and how can they put it across, say in a job situation, so on a job application or in an interview, how can they begin to exemplify the brand that they want to be?
Okay, so if we just take sharing their brand in general, and then I'll talk about the interview situation. So the thing to understand is that whenever people come into contact with you, whether that's an email they receive or they look at your LinkedIn profile or they speak to you on the phone or they meet you in person, they are picking up clues to your brand through, as I say, how you look, how you sound, how you act. So they're checking out the shoes you're wearing, the state of the shoes you're wearing, the clothes you're wearing, whether you're smiling, your eye contact, your body language, your personal space, whether you turned up in a car or on the bus or what bag you're carrying. And all of this is giving people clues. So when it comes to sharing your brand, it's about looking at every single way that people could pick up a clue to you and to ask yourself, right, what do I want that clue to convey about me? What's my brand that I want to get across, and is this doing it? So if you want to convey, say, gravitas as part of your brand, so you've got real experience and credibility, and you know what you're talking about, turning up with shoes that are completely unshined and, a couple of days growth that isn't a proper beard, it's just sort of looking a bit shaggy, and your hair's in a mess and your tie's at half-mast and everything, your packaging is not selling gravitas. So I'm not going to buy it, But if you think, no, actually, hold on, I'm selling gravitas, so these are the shoes I want to wear, this is the outfit I want to wear, this is how groomed I want to be. And it's your decision, but you will be conveying what your brand is. So it's essentially thinking about all the different ways that you convey your brand and using those as opportunities to get clues across. So that's number one about how you share your brand. In an interview situation, there is a situation where you are being actively asked to sell yourself. So if there's any place where you can be ramping up the trumpet blowing, that's it. Now, in terms of how you do that, there's a magic word. It's not so much, it's just a regular word. I've turned it into a magic word that I like to give people, and it's the word because. Now, the best way to explain how you use because is, say you're in an interview and they use, a great interview question that you always go to is, give us an example of a time when ... Okay, so you sit there and you have to come up with a practical example of, well, one time I was the project lead on a thing, and we did this and we delivered that, and here's the answer. Most times when people answer that question, they will just give the factual stuff. Here's A, here's B, here's C. That's my answer to your question. If you're clever, what you do though is you don't just leave it there. You say, here's A, B, C, so here's the practical stuff. You add on the word because, and then you tell me something about your brand. So, for instance, might be, I was able to knock a month off the deadline of a project I was working on because I'm someone who just picks up on all the tiny detail, and I noticed there was a key bit of information that had been missed, and as soon as we had it back in, we were able to move quicker. Or say you want to get across about your brand that you're very forward thinking. So I was able to find a new market for a customer that I was working with, and delivering new products to them, because I'm someone who likes to spot the trends and see what's coming up, so I could sort of talk to them about what their needs might be in the future. Did you see you use the word because? You can also use it at the beginning of the sentence. Because I'm someone who remains calm in a crisis, I was able to take charge of a situation when ... So you're still using those practical examples, the things that you always have to deliver in interviews, but you're just using this because to link it to an aspect of your brand, whether you're talking to me about your values or your behaviors or a skill or anything like that.
I love it. Again, I've not thought of that before. It's a really powerful way to start bringing in the brand aspect, as you mentioned.
Yeah, and subtle still. Because when you use the word because, it just sounds like you're just explaining part of the answer. You're not doing this big ding, 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 hello, personal brand bit coming up. You just sort of gently slip into it.
And can you give some examples of where people's personal branding hasn't worked as well as they thought it would, or where it's gone wrong?
I think it's when their own perception of themselves doesn't match other people's perception. So they have a view that they are one thing and they've found out later that they're not. I can think of one person in particular. a guy who used to work in the organization I worked at, who was renowned. I mean, talk about what's said when you're not in the room. He was renowned for talking the talk, but never walked the walk, not once. And for just talking himself into a job, but then not long in, people would realize he didn't deliver. And so having to move on to the next job and the next job. So his personal brand was really not working for him. I think the other time a personal brand doesn't work for people is when they just don't appreciate that they have one, and they're having a really negative impact around the place, and they're completely blinkered to it. They have no idea. And it's understanding just how far your personal brand can travel without you even realizing. So I'll give you a true example. I do work with a grad scheme at a big bank down in London. And every year they take on new grads, and I go down, and as part of their induction week, I run a personal brand workshop, getting them thinking about their brand. Now, these people have been given a great opportunity, and out of the 12 people that I have on my workshops, I always find that the vast majority of them, great grads, right attitude and everything. But I'll be honest with you, I usually find at least one person on the workshop, they saunter in. I can tell you one guy, he sauntered in an hour late, didn't even apologize, sat there. His body language for the whole thing was, I do not want to be here. One of the exercises we did, he was incredibly rude to another member of the team, one of his fellow grads. Just the insolence, it was awful. And this guy didn't seem to understand that when I finish those workshops, the person who hires me at the bank, the person who's in charge of the grad scheme, always comes and sees me afterwards when everybody's left the room and says, so, right, give me a rundown. What did you think of them? Go around the table. Tell me what you thought. And I tell her my impression of them. I tell her what I think. And I will often say, you know, that person, they are going far. They were brilliant. They've got the right attitude. I think they could be a real star. This person here, no. They are a troublemaker. They are this, they are that. And that person will listen to me and go, yeah, do you know what? I'm starting to find that myself. That's also backs up something else I heard from this manager over there. And people are talking about you, whether you want to think they are or not. So sitting there believing that your personal brand doesn't matter, or, I don't really care about personal brand, do you know what? You should. I mean, I actually, a year later, I went back to the bank to do more, and I said to her, what happened to that guy? You know, the hour late guy, the insolent guy, the rude guy. She said, he did career suicide, she calls it. She said, because at the end of the grad induction, the grads are asked to do a bit of a presentation on what they've done over the 6 weeks, what they've learned and where they've worked, but to the sort of senior management team. And this guy stood up and he basically went, this graduate induction has been the biggest waste of time for me. I don't think I've learned a single new thing. Oh, well done. You've just said that in front of the whole management team. Do you think we're going to be offering you a promotion anytime soon? And he was oblivious to it, you know. So it's about being, you know, don't kid yourself. People are saying stuff. Use it to your advantage. Get them saying positive stuff.
Excellent. No, very wise words there. And as I saw a quote saying, in terms of your brand, be yourself because everybody else is taking.
Yes, Oscar Wilde. It's absolutely true. Yeah, Oscar Wilde gets quoted a lot. He was a very clever man.
where I read it, it didn't attribute it.
Oh, well, there you go.
There you go. Excellent. So moving on to the quick fire round, Jennifer, could you recommend one book, could be any book at all, that our listeners should read?
Going back to that, how do you know what your strengths are? There's a book that I often use with my clients called Strengths Finder. That's all one word, Strengths Finder 2.0. It's by a guy called Tom Rath, R-A-T-H, and I definitely recommend people go on Amazon and buy a copy. It's about 10 quid. Always buy a new copy, though, and there's a reason for that, because what StrengthsFinder gives you, it's a book that was put together by Gallup, which is a research organization. And back in the sort of late 80s, early 90s, they said, you know, people go about business in the wrong way. They spend their time looking at, here's A, we want to get to B, what are we missing, and what are our weaknesses, and how can we get better at things? They said what people should be doing is, here's A, I want to get to B. What are my strengths that I already have that I can apply to doing that? So what they said was, the trouble is that people don't know what their strengths are. So they came up with 34 different definitions of a variety of strengths, from someone who's a maximizer, who makes the most of situations, someone who's strategic or futuristic or a harmonizer. They gave them all these words. But then they created this online profiling tool where you go on and you enter a code that's in a panel in the back of the book, hence why you need a new copy, and you complete an online survey. It takes about 20 minutes, and at the end of it, it says, right, out of all the 34 strengths, here are your top 5. And it gives you a definition personalized for you as to how those strengths come across. It gives you really great advice about how you can make the most of those strengths, how you can improve those strengths. And it's just fantastic. If you're really at a loss for what am I bringing to the table, this is a great place to start.
I completely agree. And it's a book that I've used in the past.
Oh, great.
And it's illuminating to see what the strengths that you come out with at the end.
The other thing it does is if you're trying to put that brand pyramid together and work out how to word what your brand is, I mean, the sort of the individual report, I mean, it's a personalized report, and you think, well, yeah, it's a computer that's generated this. But I find that the language that's used in the report is actually really good. And even picking out actual sentences from there and using it yourself, it's fantastic.
Yep, I'd completely recommend that one as
well.
Good. So moving on then to one website that you'd recommend.
I have fallen in love with photofeeler.com, which is photo as in PHOTO and feeler, FEELER. And Photofeeler it's a great website. It's linked to your brand as well. So essentially, what you can do is you go on this website and you can upload photos of you that you are thinking of using. Say you're doing your LinkedIn profile and you've got a few different photos and you're going, I don't know which one looks best and which one should I use. And what you do is you go on Photofeeler, you upload your pictures, and complete strangers from around the world give you a critique and mark your photo on a scale for how likable you look, how competent you look, and how influential you look. And you can then decide, well, do I want to come across as likable or influential or competent? And you can then choose the picture that gets the highest score for that. The reason why I love it as well is to get your photo critiqued, you need 20 credits on the site. And the way you get credits is by critiquing other people's photos, which is the most fun that you can have sitting in at your desk. Because you get to see, it's good actually, because you get to see, well, actually, no, that's a really good photo. I like how they've done that. Or, oh my goodness, what the hell was this person thinking? Not good at all. So it's a great site, and it gives you insight into how people could be reading clues into your photograph.
I'm going to have to upload a picture onto there and start rating them later this afternoon. And finally, what one tip would you give listeners that they can implement today?
I would say if LinkedIn, I have to be honest, I was never a fan of LinkedIn when I was in corporate life, but I've done a complete 180 on my view on it, and I'm a huge fan of it. LinkedIn is a great way for you to build a network and stay in touch with them for a relatively little time in your day. And if you are thinking about getting a job anywhere in business, do you know what? I know LinkedIn, some graduates said to me, oh, LinkedIn, it's so yesterday. And I think, well, actually, the people who are hiring you are still very much using LinkedIn, so get yourself on there. But make sure if I am going to go on LinkedIn and find you, I'm seeing a great photo, a very instructive profile that you have definitely spell checked and copy checked, you know, that you're getting some of the who out there and some of the what. I mean, it's prime advertising space for your brand, so do not miss out on it.
And make sure it's all linked in with the brand that you want to get across.
Absolutely.
Super. That's been amazing. Thank you, Jennifer. Before we finish, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you and the work that you do?
So my website is jennifer-holloway.co.uk. I'd recommend going to it, not least because I write a blog every fortnight, just about different aspects of personal brand, and that's absolutely free. You can sign up to more blogs. You can put your email address in, and all my contact details are on there. And I genuinely, anyone that gets in touch with me, I always reply. If someone does want to work on their brand, Personal Branding for Brits, you can get it on Amazon or you can get it for your Kindle. I've written it as, I call it a practical guide, because I've read so many books where at the end of it I thought, wow, that was interesting, but how do I apply what I've learned? My book is, right, here's what you need to know, here's what you need to do, practical, practical, practical. So, you know, if someone wants to do that, or if they've just got any questions for me, drop me a line and I will get back to them.
And I definitely recommend Jennifer's book and also her blog. Check out her, if you're a recent graduate or soon to be graduate, definitely read her post, Why Do Grads Think They're So Special?
Yeah.
And also,
stirred up a bit of. Someone said to me, "I can't believe you wrote that," and I said, "Well, actually, I've had loads of grads write back to me. They leave comments on. I put it on LinkedIn and on my website saying I totally agree with you. I'm a graduate and I see other graduates doing this, and it drives me mad. So, yes, we shall see."
And also the post, "Do you suffer from BRF?"
Yes.
I'll let the listeners read that one. I'll link to both of them in the show notes, but they're both well worth a read.
Thank you,
Jennifer. Thank you very much for your time.
I've had good fun, and best of luck to all of the grads listening. I hope you have the careers you want.
My thanks again to Jennifer Holloway. Wow, what a public speaker! I've certainly got a lot to learn. We packed a lot into that episode, but in terms of my top 3 takeaways, the first for me is that your personal brand is something which you need to start thinking about now. It's not a wishy-washy concept, but something which fundamentally is about who you are, what you stand for, your values, what are you passionate about. We've touched upon these concepts in previous episodes, such as episode 6 on the transition from university to work with David Schindler and episode 4 on career planning with Steve Rook. And fundamentally, you need to think about what your values are and what you want from work if you're going to get yourself on a path to a fulfilling career. As Jennifer said though, this isn't something that you can just bosh out in 10 minutes. It takes a lot of brain power and thinking, but if you do it properly and you use the structure of a brand pyramid, then you only need to do it once and it will stay with you for your career. Because if you've done it properly, your brand will be consistent to who you are and it's not going to change. Which leads me on to the second point, which for me is developing your personal brand is about knowing who you are so you can be confident in yourself and what you stand for. Getting a job is a two-way process, but for me it's something which too many graduates forget, and they focus too much on them being right for the company, but also forget that the company needs to be right for them. If that means by being true to yourself some companies say no, then as Jennifer said, that's fine, because you wouldn't have been happy there anyway. Finally, I love Jennifer's magic word because. Slip this into your arsenal of interview answers. Add it to the end of the STAR methodology. In fact, a new acronym has been born, STARB. You heard it here first. Adding in because at the end lets you finish on a high, leaving them with a taste of your skills and your personal brand. A very nifty little trick. So, episode 12 on branding all sorted. You can find a full transcript of everything that we've talked about today and all the links at graduatejobpodcast.com/brand. Please get in touch with us on Twitter at GradJobPodcast, and if you've enjoyed the show, please leave a review on iTunes or Stitcher Radio. We will love you forever. So big shout out to Grimsby to the Max, who left a 5-star review this week and said, not just helpful from job hunting, but great for tips on improving your productivity. So thanks very much there to a listener from Grimsby. If you've not already subscribed via iTunes or Stitcher Radio, you need to sort that out. It's the easiest way to get each episode delivered to you for free and to make sure that you don't miss a thing. Join us next week when we speak to author Elsa Sharp and cover the topic of how to get a job in TV. I hope you enjoyed the episode today, but more importantly, I hope you use it and apply it. See you next week.